Hi guys, welcome to this tutorial. In this video I'll be showing you how to make this lovely dress for a child. It was made for a child of about 2 years and 6 months, and it came out so beautiful on her. If you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for staying with me on this channel. I really appreciate it. Okay, so let's get started. This is the paper. I didn't use a marker, but I'll just explain everything that I did. Now the shoulder that I used was 5.5 and the armhole also was 5.5. Okay, so I marked the shoulder and the armhole to form my chest line. That chest line is what I use for the bust. Then I marked the shoulder to waist and the seam allowance. So you're just going to take the measurement of the child. I think later I'll be doing a video on how to take measurement for children. Okay, so I just marked the point, that's the sewing allowance where I'll be joining to the skirt part. So this measurement stop on the waist. Now next thing we're going to do is to put our round measurements. Okay, so the waist divide by 4, I put it, and the bust divide by 4, the chest divide by 4. Their measurement is usually straight. I used 22 for her, so divide by 4 is 5.5. Then on the shoulder I came down by 0.5, and then I used 2.25, that's 2 and 1/4 for the neck wideness and the neck depth. Okay, so now I slanted the shoulder to the 0.5 that I came down with on that armhole line. Then I still added ½ inch back, so it's like I didn't really remove anything because I added ½ inch back up. So the neck depth is 2.25, that's 2¾ Now I'm adding the back also on the same paper. So I use 1.5 for the back depth, so I just mark that out also and form the back neckline. So I wrote for the back and the front. Okay, so I drew out the curve for the back and the front. Then I measure what was left on the armhole and divide by 2. For the front I went in by 0.5, that's ½ inch, and I drew out the armhole like so. I'm sorry, I wish I had used a marker, it would have been more brighter. Okay, I used a pen. So for the back I didn't go in at all. Okay, I didn't go in at all. For children you don't go in. Okay, so I'm cutting it out. Like I said, I'm using this to cut the back and the front, so I'm going to transfer the pattern first to add zipper allowance for that of the back. So I'm adding zipper allowance of 1 inch for the back. Okay, then by the side I added 1.5 sewing allowance. The down part I added ½ inch to join it to the down part and the skirt part. Then by the side I added 1.5 seam allowance. You can see that's what I'm cutting. Then I cut the back armhole and the back neckline. Okay, so I'm cutting the zipper allowance points, then I'll now cut the back neckline. Okay, so I'm removing the front from the back. I've not cut the neckline, that's what I want to do now. I just extended the neck to the zipper allowance point. Okay, and then I cut it out. Now this is the front. I'm not going to cut the front neckline, okay? That's the front neck depth, and then the armhole for the front. So I'll be using this pattern to cut my fabric, okay? Now before then, you can see that the dress has a yoke at the upper part, okay? So you're just going to determine how long you want the yoke to be, okay? Here I used about 3.5 on the armhole. I marked where 3.5 is, and then I went down by like 2.5 from that neck point, or you can go down by 3. It all depends on what you want, because the children may not be of the same age. So you just measure where you know that the chest of the child will not be looking too bare, okay? So I drew it, I connected from the midpoint to the armhole, and then I cut it out. Now I labeled it as a front yoke, okay, for the upper part, and then I cut it out. Then I'm doing that of the back also. You make sure that what you have on the front and the back, they are the same where the armhole stops. So that was what I did to match them up, and then I made the back one to be a little bit deeper because it's not going to be showing any chest, okay? So I drew it out with a curve. You can use any shape of your choice, okay? And then I'll cut it out. So I labeled it as a back yoke. Now when you are cutting, you'll be adding ½ inch on those points. That's where you'll be joining them together. Now for the back, I'm reducing the zipper point of the back. What I need is just ½ inch to use to sew the lining. I later even cut it a bit more. You can even change the shape of that part, okay? So I just reduce it by ½ inch. I later reduce it by 1 inch, okay? I later reduce it by 1 inch because I don't want it to stop at the zipper point at all, okay? So these are the fabric I'm using. I use doll face and then the lace and lining, okay? So I'm cutting the down part first. I'll cut the down part of the gown first. Now to cut the down part, this is 2 yards of bride and doll face bridal satin. Then from the waist to the length, what I'm going to cut now is from the waist to the full length of the gown plus like 2 inches sewing allowance, ½ inch for the upper part, and 1.5 to turn the down part. You can add more than that if you want to turn it 1 inch 1 inch. That's, you can add like 2.5. So that was the length, but I kept the 2 yards on fold to cut the length. Now I'll be using the remaining fabric to cut the upper part, okay? So I cut two. I used one the first cutting I use it for the front, and then this other cutting now I divided into two to get the back on, so that to make it fuller. So in all it will just give me like 4 yards, okay? So I first cut the first 2 yards that I cut the length out for the front. Then this second one I divided into two to attach it on both sides of the front to give me the back on, so that way it will make it fuller. Now I'll be cutting the upper parts using the remaining fabric. This is the back, the down parts of the back. That's after I remove the yoke, okay? So I pin it down, and then I will add ½ inch at the upper part. That ½ inch is what I'll be using to join the yoke back to it. Then for the front is on fold. Although I kept the back to on fold, but I'll slipped it open. But when you're cutting the front, since it's on fold, you make sure that it's actually rhyming with that point. Then I added seam allowance too. Okay, and then you cut up. I think this the first one I cut was the front, and then this is the back. Added seam allowance to it. Then you cut out the armhole, and then I cut open that part where the zipper will be. Okay, so you can see that I kept the front on exactly on fold. So I'll use this cutout now to cut the lace, because there is a lace on it. So the door face that I cut is like the interlining that will be under the lace. Then I'll still use it to cut the lining fabric. That's a cotton lining. So this is how it is, the front and the back plus the interlining. Now I'm cutting out the yoke like I did for the down part of the draft. I'm also going to add half inch to the down part of this one to use it to join it back um to the other part. Okay, so I added half inch to the down part. That will be the same allowance to join both the up and the down together. So I've cut for the front yoke. I'll be cutting for the back yoke. So the front has a yoke, you can see it, and also the back. Now I am cutting because I'll fix a button at the neck part of the back. I just cut a fabric the length that I want, by 2 inches, and I'll fold it and sew on it just to form a loop to use for the button. So I've used it to cut cotton lining. I've used the pattern to cut the cotton lining, and then I cut net for the to as lining for the lace part of the up. Okay, so I'll be using net to turn the lace, the yoke part. Now for the back, I'll not sew on that zipper allowance, so I chalk it so that I'll fix the lace, the yoke from that zipper allowance point. Like I said, I don't want the that point to reach the zipper allowance, so I did the same for the main fabric and the lining. I'm using the net to turn the lace. Okay, so this is the front. I fixed the yoke to the bodies, and I'm also fixing the back also to the body, that's the yoke to the down part. Okay, so I'm fixing fabric to fabric, lining to lining to join the shoulder points together. Then I did the same thing for the lining, that's I joined the shoulder to shoulder of the net, and then I'm opening it like this round, so that I'll sew around the neck and the armhole to have a neat finish. So after I've done that, I'm bringing it out from the front. So I bring out from the shoulder point, brought out one part of the back, and then went to the other part of the front to bring out the other part of the back. While I was joining, I didn't remember to put the lace on the interlining, that's on the door face, but I later remember, and then I had to remove the yoke and put the lace, then fix the yoke of the main fabric back. Okay, so this is how it will be after you have torn it. This is how you're going to have a neat finish when you sew like that. Okay, so what you're going to do now to shape it, you keep lining to lining, fabric to fabric at the side, and then you sew your sewing allowance, which is I use 1.5 depending on what you are using. When you are pinning, you make sure that they align very well and pin it like that. You open it up and pin it like that. Okay, so you make sure that the fabric is with the fabric front and back, the lining is with the lining front and back, and then you sew like that. So you're going to have this effect. Alright, you can see, like I said, I've added the lace back on it, so you're going to see that the front is looking neat and also the inner part is looking neat. I fixed the loop on the neck area of the back before turning with the net. So that's the armhole, and that's how it looks. So the next thing is that we're going to join. I measured the down part of the waist part to know how to gather the dolphins I'm using for the down part. So I ensure that I have the child's actual waist plus just zipper allowance. So if there's any excess, you're going to fix it, like readjust it. So that's what I did, and then I sewed the dolphins to only the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to be sewing the lining to the lining now. So I'll gather the lining too and sew it to the down part of the lining. So that is how it looks like. You can see that both the front and back are looking the same. Now it's just to fix this zip. So I'll first determine where the zipper will stop, and then from that point I'm going to be sewing the zipper allowance left, which is 1 inch. After sewing it down, I'll pin the I'm going to sew 1 inch, then and then I'll pin the zip on it the way I want it to be. Like, you make sure that it's looking neat before you sew. So I'm pinning the zip to only the fabric, you can see, leaving half inch because the zipper allowance I had it was one, so I make sure that I leave half inch out, then I start my pinning, so that by the time I sew I will have taken exactly that 1 inch because the zipper is just half inch. Okay, so I pin it well onto the main fabric. I'm not fixing the lining yet. Okay, so I pin it on both sides, and then I'm going to sew on it. This is how you achieve neat finishing, even if you are doing a big ball dress, like you are using two nets I don't have that video yet on this channel, but I may do it sometimes. So you're just, even if you are using like 5 years of net, you just gather it to the exact waist of the child, and then you sew it like this is just the same method you're going to be using. So imagine if you are using hard net, you can sew your hard net together with the lining where you are joining, then you sew the net together with the main fabric. Okay, so now I've done it. I just place the lining, you open it up, okay, and sew it to the zipper on the wrong side. That's after you have fixed the zipper, okay, so that you are going to have this neat finishing. That's after you have fixed the zip to the main fabric, then you will now use the lining to cover it up on the wrong side, and then you have this. So this is how it looks at the end of the day. I'm going to fix a button on it. It came out so beautiful, and the mother of the child loves it. We have a neat finish here. The front side and the back side are looking beautiful and neat. If you have found this video helpful, please kindly give it a thumbs up. Thank you. Now for the sleeve, I cut a net of about 2 yards on length like 4 inches. The wideness, that's the length is 4 yards, then the wideness is 4 inches. Then I measure around the sleeve to know what I'm going to gather that net to. So whatever you have, that's what you're going to gather the net to. So now I make sure that I didn't gather at the exact midpoint. I gather like 1 inch and 3 inches. That's 1 inch one side, 3 inches one side, and then I fix it to the sleeve. This is to the armor. This is the outcome. If you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you. Please kindly give this video a thumbs up if you have found it helpful, so that others can see it too.